Hey everyone, today on the G3 Boardroom, the most underrated YouTube channel is going to be talking about the most underrated board games.
Right, and you know, our definition here of underrated, meaning, we looked at Board Game Geek scores, not the geek scores, but the as voted by you, the viewer, the averages, and it just these games were stunningly underrated. And now I know people will review bomb games. I'm either giving it a 10 or a 1, but I don't think that's the case here with the games we chose. Especially the one, we're not doing these in any order except for the last one. The last one, I saw the score, I was shocked.
It was egregious.
Yeah, it's.
And just to give like a, I think sort of so you know, like the bar, Monopoly is like a 4. A 4 actually is like a 4.4. So, when we are going to talk about games that are near that, I think you'll see why we think it's an underrated game.
Yeah, and Monopoly's not on this list. Now, this is based on what we think about the games, whether the games are fun or not, because that's the whole point, right? You're playing board games to have fun.
Yeah, I found that in general, if a game is considered a light game or a game that doesn't take 6 hours to play and doesn't cost $150 for the base
People
game.
don't feel they have to defend their investment.
Right. So we found that a lot of light games are going to get short shrift, and I think are a little bit underrated. But like you said, we're going for fun.
Fun.
And sometimes it's an interesting mechanic that makes a lot of fun. But that's sort of our criteria. And the first one that we're going to talk about today,
Castle Panic. I was stunned to see Castle Panic on this list. It was rated below a 7. Castle Panic is a game you're defending a castle. You have mobs of orcs and goblins and special units and all kinds of guys coming at you. They smash down the walls. Once all your castle's destroyed, you lose. In the meantime, it's cooperative. You're playing together. You're trading amongst each other. No one has a real motivation to hold out or cheat someone else. It's almost pure cooperative, though can be a winner at the end, the guy who killed the most value. But the game's a lot of fun, and we have a laugh riot anytime the boulder comes out and smashes through lines of bad guys and then hits the wall, and sometimes just keeps on rolling. It's we're trying to figure out the physics in that, how rock rolling downhill and then uphill.
Yeah.
But that game, it's so much fun. It's an easy game to learn. It's an easy game to set up, and I don't understand. It has been devalued. It's worth looking up, and it's worth your time.
You can play with a lot of people, too, because it's not that heavy of a lift. You can play with younger people.
Yeah. You
can play with family members who aren't really board gamers, but they would enjoy that. And I've seen it before where someone's like, they don't want to play Gloomhaven, and I get it, but they love to play that game.
It's a good entry-level game. I'm not introducing anyone who doesn't play board games to Gloomhaven, that's for sure.
Right.
But Castle Panic, I'll roll out. No problem. Castle Panic, it's a good one.
One that I wanted to mention is a game called Portal Block. Portal Block is so underrated that you can't even find it on certain websites that list board games. It's a game that came out a couple years ago, and another reason I wanted to mention it is it was sort of underrated by us. It was one of the first games that we talked about on our channel, and I don't even think that we did a playthrough, because that's a game that what you do is you have a bunch of blocks, and the first round is, everyone's like putting out a block, and it sets up your board. And then in the second round, you're trying to make it through this board that you set up, and the first person to make it to the end is the winner. I played this game many, many times with 2 or 3 people, and it was just so much fun. But we took it to our gaming weekend, and I think the game is like up to, I would say 4 or 5 players. But we tried to max out the number of players on the game, and it just imploded, and it was a very negative experience. And I think we never aired the playthrough because it just took so long.
You're absolutely right. We recorded it all.
Yeah.
And we didn't make a video out of it. Snippets of that playthrough appear in our review of the game.
Yeah.
I can see where it is a fun game, but with our level of gamer and our level of vitriol towards one another, it just became a malicious.
But see, that's all.
We broke the game.
Yeah, but they fixed it.
Right.
Yeah,
and they fixed it.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up. Because I still feel a little bit bad.
You feel bad. I don't feel bad.
Because we reviewed it in maybe like an early stage, and I remember contacting the designers of that, and and that's no, we kind of changed the rules and fixed the stuff that was wrong with it. So now I would encourage you to check it out. I mean, because it's not on, like, I can't find it on Board Game Geek. I hope that it's still in print and that it's still out there and gettable. But I would definitely recommend that one.
Next up is DDay Dice. Now, DDay Dice, it's what it is. It is a dice rolling game.
Yes, about D-Day.
About D-Day. You're making sets, you're making matches that give you certain things. You're trying to get your troops onto the beach, to the bunker. There are several different maps that are increasing difficulty. You can play solo mode. You can play with up to 4 people. I find this game to be a lot of fun. There's some special abilities you guys have. It's a lot of fun, but you can fall victim. If you have someone in your group who cannot roll dice, and everyone has somebody, then they cannot play this game. Because you have to get every team up the beach. And so, I go and I'm fine, and Jay goes and he's fine, and then Dave goes and he doesn't do so great, and now we're all struggling to keep Dave going. But it's a lot of fun. It's an enjoyable game, and it's an enjoyable experience to play it solo as well. It's a little bit of a harder find, but it's not that expensive. The box weighs about 3 tons because, again, it's full of dice.
Dice, yeah.
But I enjoy that game quite a bit.
I think that the reason that people don't rate this game higher is because it's the dice. And I think there's just a lot of people out there, maybe someone who's into heavier, more serious games is probably more likely to rate a game like this lower because of the luck factor
just randomness
of the dice.
Yeah.
But again, it's fun. We're not going to talk about risk. But I mean, that game, if you're a little kid, it's fun even though it's a bunch of dice. But DDay Dice, despite the dice rolling, there's a lot of mechanics in there, a lot of cool cards and things that make it a fun game.
If you don't mind the randomness of dice rolling, then it's a good game and it's worth picking up.
And there's so much dice rolling that I think the randomness sort of mitigates itself a little bit.
I don't know.
Because
I'm perpetually bad at So I lost some sort of bet early in my life to a dice deity of some kind.
Right. Okay, the next game on our list, I'd mentioned that sometimes lighter games get short shrift, and this is certainly one of them. I think the game Kites is a little bit underrated.
That game is so much fun.
Kites is a game where you are racing against a timer to lay out your cards, and it's a cooperative game. Everyone goes in order, and anytime you're racing against the clock, it's going to cause a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and a lot of, clenched whatevers because that timer's running out and someone's not paying attention. And, they got my card out just in time and got to flip the timer. And so it's a really raucous, fun.
It's several timers. I mean, so you flip them all over.
Yeah.
There is no break in this game for people to poke at their phone. And if you're playing with a group of people who are poking at their phone, you're done. Now, the game also, since it is on a timer, it puts that pressure on people. And some people don't like that pressure, but if you're with the proper group of people, and you'll find this about pretty much any game, if you're with the proper group of people, that game is a blast. It's so much fun, in fact, that my wife was thinking about taking it to show to her class and have her class do work with that. But you're absolutely right. It's a lot of fun. It provides that pressure. But, like I said, I think maybe this one got rated low because I like to play with my phone while I'm playing the game, and I can't do that.
Well, maybe the subject matter of Kites, and, it's a 10-minute game, and it's accessible to all people, and maybe there's just, a little bit of elitism going on there. I don't know.
I don't know, but I'll say this: we found this one at Gen Con. We played it at Gen Con, and we had such a good time. It was the take my money thing. Take my money,
Yeah.
give me the game.
Yeah, I want to buy this game. How much is it?
Yeah. And even though we were at Gen Con, they actually had it. So
Yeah.
it's so
It's so underrated that they had copies at Gen Con.
Who knew?
Yeah.
It's such a rarity. All right, so next one up is Red Dragon Inn. Red Dragon Inn, it's a little bit of an older game, but they continue to support it. At this point, there's got to be over 50 characters for this game. And you could, if you wanted to, play with 50 people. And it's kind of a party game. It's a card game. But what it is, you have a health bar, and you've got your alcohol level, and when the two meet, you're out.
So it's a drinking game. Well, it's not a drinking game. It's
drinking.
It's a game of drinking.
It's a game
about drinking. So your characters are drinking, and you are playing cards to make other people drink, and that's dropping their alcohol content or raising their alcohol content and lowering their health. Yeah. So,
and so you can either knock them out that way, or you can take all their money and get them out that way. And like I said, they continue to support this game. They put out new sets all the time. At this point, there's quite a bit. There's a breaking point in this game, though. There's a sweet spot for it. You could play with 50 people. And like 45 of those people ain't going to play.
They're not going to get a turn.
Because they're just not going to get a turn. But it's a fun game. It's told in a comedic manner. A lot of things on the cards, if you read them, they're funny. And it's just one of those fun games to play. It's like, make Jason drink, over and over and over. It's like, oh, he's down. It was only going to take one more drink to put him out. And so people start loading him up. It's got a little bit of gotcha in it, but it's a lot of fun. I have fun with that game.
A lot of these games too, at least the ones that we find to be underrated, have an element of humor in them and a little bit of or whimsy. Kites is sort of whimsy. This Red Dragon Inn's got some humor. There's some other games that we'll come to on our list that are kind of funny. And I enjoy playing a game where it's nice to play a game where it's you have the serious corruption moving across the land, but sometimes it's fun when just funny stuff happens.
Maybe people who rate board games on Board Game Geek just don't like fun. While you're down there liking and subscribing, put in the comments, do people on Board Game Geek not like fun? I don't know. Maybe that's it.
No, maybe.
Maybe they don't like humor in their games.
Yeah.
We're not those guys.
I love everyone on Board Game Geek.
I do too, but maybe people just have lost the humor.
Yeah, maybe. The next one on our list is 5 Minute Dungeon. 5 Minute Dungeon is a great game. It's really, really fast. It comes with a little app thing that sort of kind of runs you through it, counts you down.
It cannot take more than 5 minutes.
It's right in the name, folks. If you like quick games, it's really simple because you're just kind of matching colors.
Yeah.
It's a learn your color game.
You flip over the enemy deck and you get a monster or a trap or something like that, and you got to match colors to get by it. It's really just that simple. Or you can play like a special ability card to get around it, that sort of thing, until you get to the boss. But everyone's throwing cards in all the time. This is a game I have been repeatedly accused of playing too well.
I don't think those are the words that were used.
That's what I heard.
His interpretation.
That's what I heard.
Yes.
You play too well. You've played too many cards, Jason. You've solved too many problems.
But if someone runs out of cards too soon, then it's bad for the team because it's a cooperative game.
But I've solved all the problems. I can't help it. You're slower.
I'm Switzerland in this. Dave thinks, him and Dave go back and forth about, should he play more? Should he play less? And I'm just like, I'm not getting in the middle of this.
He's an older gentleman. He moves a little bit slower. And so I'm throwing out cards. And you're like, I got a yellow. That was 4 turns ago, man. It's on a timer. You're incentivized to play your cards and solve problems. And Dave ain't here to defend himself. So.
Yeah, and they have a bunch of iterations too. They have 5 Minute Dungeon, they have 5 Minute Marvel, and wait, that's it.
I think so.
I think so. I always say, oh, there's tons of iterations of this game. I can only think of 2. Yeah, because there's 2.
Yeah.
But both of them are a lot of fun.
I prefer 5-Minute Dungeon to 5-Minute Marvel. I do. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Even the voices are, the voices on the timer, they taunt you. It's a laugh. It is a lot of fun. My only problem with that game, and there is a little bit of a gap in it, which is for 5-Minute Dungeon, if you have 3 players, there's 4 decks. If you have 2 players, each play with 2 decks. But if you have 3 players, each play with 1. So you end up shorting yourself of one of the primary colors. It's not that it's empty, but you have less of one of those colors.
Yeah, we've had a lot of luck playing that game and winning that game. But it is something we've noticed that when you play with 3, it's a little bit a little bit tougher. Yeah.
Still, the game's a laugh riot. I challenge you to play it and not laugh. You will laugh. I mean, it just. And then you'll want to choke your friends out for accusing you of playing too well.
Playing too well.
You should want to excel, Jason. I don't know what the problem is.
Well, Dave's not here, so now he's taking a swing at me. I never had a problem with you, with the way you play.
Go to the video. Go to the video.
Dave, you and Dave were bickering about that.
All right, so next up is Corridor. Now, we did something funny with Corridor. It's meant to be played with 2 or 4 players. We played it with 3. Defied the laws of nature.
Yes.
Gave the middle finger to the cosmos and proceeded playing with 3 anyway. And the objective is simple enough. It's just get your pawn from your side of the board to the other side of the board. The other person's trying to do the same thing. In the meantime, you could also choose to put up a wall, so they have to go around it.
Everyone gets like a certain amount of little like blockades.
They look like club crackers.
Yeah,
especially when you're hungry. These guys don't feed me.
A thin domino.
Yeah, put them in there, So we played with 3 players, and again, we had a laugh riot. We actually, the video we shot we played it twice. I didn't win either one of them. But my fun is not contingent upon winning. So my fun can be contingent upon making sure you don't win.
Right.
So, and. We had a lot of fun playing that game. It's a fun video to watch too.
We had a good time. I mean, we played it with the even numbers also, and that's fun too. It's more like
I've only played with 3.
Yeah, when you play with 2 or 4, it has more of like a checkers element, I guess. It's more symmetrical. But playing with 3, I would encourage you to play with 3 because that third person is kind of the wild card.
Yeah.
You got 2 people that are coming head to head, but then the person's coming in off the side is like I said, like a real wild card. And we played it a few times on video and a few times not, and it's always pretty even. It's not like the person on the side always wins,
or the last guy to go,
or something like that. So it's pretty balanced, even when we try to unbalance it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Is if I'm particularly unhappy with one of you at the time, I will, I'm just gonna mess them up. But no, Corridor's it's a lot of laughs.
Yeah, some good mechanics and some good, like I said, some good balance in the game. Even when you play it.
Yeah, very basic, easy to learn, easy to play. Play with anybody, any age bracket.
Now, one game that might not be as easy as that and a little bit more challenging is The Captain is Dead.
And you deserve to be.
Now, this game we consider it to be underrated from the ratings and what we've seen, but it's kind of marginal. Mm-hmm. But this is a game where you play a crew, and just like any spaceship crew, things are going awry. But in this case, it's gotten so bad that the captain is dead.
Yeah.
And so now all the rest of the schlubs have to kind of figure out how to get through this alien attack without the captain there to kind of help them out. It is, I think that maybe one of the reasons that it gets rated a little bit lower is I think it's pretty tough to win. You kind of need the right amount of people, and you have to choose the right crew members.
Right.
And even then, you can lose that game pretty quickly.
We did a video on this one too, and we lost. And but then we played it like immediately thereafter, and we crushed it.
Oh, right. Yeah,
that's
right.
It was bizarre. But it really does have a lot to do with the crew composition. There are some guys who are better than others. But if those guys are doing their jobs, then you have more success. If such things arise where it's like, well, I have to go take care of this, and it's really not what my job is, I'm not going to have a lot of success doing that. But you can get put in those positions where you've got the wrong guy going to the wrong job, and it's not going to get done.
I think that game works better when you have more people playing it, when you max out, because there's an element of sharing cards, and you can stop bad things from happening by having a certain amount of certain cards. And if you have only 3 people playing, if no one has those cards, then you can't share them. So sometimes in a game where you're sort of fighting off bad stuff that's happening, if you have more people playing, it sort of bogs the game down and actually hurts you. But I think in this game, more people are better. I've played it with 4 or 5 people. Can I go up to 5? I know that I played with 4, and the experience was kind of the same. Won some, lost some, but I just think that it was better with more. Which is, hey, any game where it's better with more people, I think is a good game and should be played by more people.
And it's also one of those games where I like it because it always feels like there's 5 tasks to do, and I can only manage these 3.
Yeah.
I feel like and so you have to make those decisions like, man, this has got to be done, that's got to be done, and I can only manage over here. And, of course, the way we treat one another, well, you should have taken care of all of that. You had a bad turn. Why did you draw that totally random card? But, yeah, Captain's Dead's a lot of fun. Plus, I've always enjoyed games where you feel like you're part of a spaceship crew and things aren't going your way, like Orville or something like that.
Right, yeah.
Much more than a Star Trek where everyone does everything well, So.
I like the people that I don't forget who said it, but someone said that the series The Orville was the best Star Trek franchise out there, even though it's
Galaxy Quest is the best Star Trek movie ever
Star Trek movie.
Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong in the comments section, or debate me. Galaxy Quest, best Star Trek movie ever done.
Yeah.
But there's a wonderful line in while we're talking about sci-fi. There's a wonderful line in Stargate SG-1. The general says, he's like, I hate my job here. He says, truth is, everyone here is excellent at their job, and I miss yelling at people. That's the same thing with Star Trek. Everyone here is awesome. Don't worry about it. It'll be fixed within the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
One thing sort of as a side note, going back to Captain is Dead, I kind of like the artwork in this one.
Yeah, it's
sort
unique.
of
it's kind of a unique artwork. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to say like kind of got like the 60s sci-fi feel sort of, but it's just very angular.
If that's how it makes you feel, that's how it makes you feel.
And I kind of dig it. So I just like bringing the game out. And that's another game that, even people that are not hardcore gamers, even though this game is a bit more complex, they still dig it.
Yeah. It's a fun one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Next one I want to talk about is Munchkin. Now, Munchkin is a card game, and it again falls into those categories of it's a short game, but it's a funny game. Those cards are hilarious.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
And it is just, it's an older game. I think it came out in early 2000.
But they keep releasing different versions of it, and I think wasn't it Batman Munchkin that came out recently?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But there's an Adventure Time Munchkin that's much higher rated because Adventure Time is a really cool IP. There's Munchkin Marvel, which is another one, huge IP. That one's more a little bit higher rated, But the original Munchkin is a little bit lower, and I think that's unfortunate because all the other ones that are rated higher, the cards, yes, they're still funny, but they're a little bit derivative, and they're not original. The original one I think is just really really good.
You're absolutely right. Those cards are a lot of fun, and they're worth reading and looking at the art. A lot of cards get played, nobody reads the names anymore. But like one of the enemies is a houseplant, just a common houseplant. Sure. And the bad stuff is it's a houseplant. Just walk away. There's different things like that, and it is funny. And there's multiple odd ways to win in that game. I've stolen games in that from last place to out of the blue. And I've had games like that where I've been absolutely devastatingly crushed, and someone's got all the points they need, and I've got one.
Yeah, I think people don't like that game because it's easy to see who's in first place, and it's easy to gang up on them.
Yeah.
So there's probably some frustration, but it's not like games like Villainous, Scum and Villainy, where you're not stopping someone from winning, you're knocking them way back down. So in the game of Munchkin, one person may get up to, being a point or two from winning, and then everyone's going to stop them while everyone else gets up. So now pretty soon, everyone's a point or two away from winning.
Right.
So I don't know, it makes it much more interesting toward the end. There's not really a lot of runaway victories in that.
I tend to not like games that have a lot of gotcha in them.
Right.
But this one, it doesn't bother me, and maybe because it's offset by the inherent humor of the game.
And I like it how it makes fun of the idea of Dungeons and Dragons, and it makes fun of the whole genre of that type of game. And I love those games. I love those fantasy games. I love that those movies and everything. So when a game comes out that kind of makes fun of stuff like that, I think it's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good one for sure.
Our penultimate underrated game is Quartz. Quartz. This is a game where you are trying to gather up. You're going into the mine and you're reaching into the grab bag and you're pulling out random gems, and each gem is worth like different points, and you're trying to get like 3 or 4 sets or of these things. I like the game because it has sort of maybe like a brinksmanship, who's going to
press your luck.
Yeah, a little bit of press your luck. Who's going to leave the mine first? And I want to stay in there and keep accumulating stuff, but there's benefits to getting out first. This game it's a lot of fun. It's got more rules than a lot of really simple games. It's not going to be just a 10-minute play, but I love I love all the gems. I love, having games with pieces, like we talked about Portal Block earlier, of like the blocks. It's not just a flat board with flat cards. There's some, tactile enjoyment or, whatever to the game.
I enjoy Quartz too. It's a competitive game, which normally I really don't go in for. I prefer a cooperative game to a competitive game. But, again, I like the tactile thing of the gems, just like you said. I like how the scoring works. I like the press your luck of I'm going to stay in the dungeon, I'm going to go. It's a lot of fun. There's a little bit of gotcha. You can blow up other people's stuff with some cards.
Yeah.
But no, it's a fun game, and it is underrated. I've played that. I've had a lot of laughs. You can store a certain gem off in your little, I can't remember what it is, but there's a storage spot. Right. So when you draw one of the rare gems and you put it over there, well, that rare gem ain't going back in the bag. No one's getting that for the rest of the game. And everybody just sits there and stews in their jealousy of that gem that you've set aside until such time as you choose to score it. But no, the game is a lot of fun. Again, it's a laugh riot. You play with the right people, and it always comes down to, well, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to leave. And, it's always somebody who's out quickly, and it's like, okay, why do you leave?
Right.
But no, it's a fun game.
Yeah, the game's good for never really blowouts. It's kind of easy for a lot of people. There's a lot of games that we just love, but if you're not the right kind of person or the right kind of left brain, right brain type person, people hate it. But this is the kind of game it's fun for everyone, and
I've never encountered anybody who hates that game.
Right, yeah.
So.
And it's funny because, we generally don't like competitive games.
Yeah.
And we've got a few competitive games on our list of underrated games. So it's interesting.
All right, so the most underrated game, and again, these weren't in any order, but this one is.
This one is.
Yes. Because when I saw the score for it, I was stunned. I was shocked. It is criminally underrated, and I don't understand. There's people out there who they walk among you, and their vote counts the same as yours. But the last game on the list is The Mind. The Mind is for a group of gamers like ours who does nothing but talk and jab at one another and insult people. In The Mind, you're not allowed to talk. And so we have to reduce all our insults to looking at people. Staring at this guy for 15 minutes and he won't play the card. I'm not playing my card.
Well, they say that like 80% of communication is nonverbal, and the mind will prove that.
The object of the game is simple enough. You've got a deck from 1 to 100. You get dealt out cards. Round 1, everybody gets 1 card. Round 2, 2 cards. Guess how many you get in round 3? And the objective is to just put them in order, lowest to highest, without speaking. The only word that you're allowed to say is stop, and that's when you're about to play a card. You can stop other people.
Right.
But other than that, without speaking. So you could have anything. You know, I could have 1, I could have 100. Do I play it fast? Do I play it slow? What do the other people, how are they going to act? And do I know these people well enough? Now, we've played this where with the same 3 guys, me, you, and Dave played it. And we got to a point it was masterful. I mean, we were just, you knew each other. You knew exactly how long somebody was going to wait. You could see the timers in their mind.
Right.
And it works. And then you put other people into it, and it's like a crazy person on the loser.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You start out, and again, the object is go from 1 to 100. And you start out 52. It's like, what are you doing there?
I mean, it's a fun game, you know, when you look down at your hand and you see a 2, you know you're going to play that right away.
Yeah.
And some games will fall where it's like, you know, I have a 2, he has a 20, and someone else has a 40. So it's pretty easy to come up. But there's some games where, you know, you look down your hand, and the lowest card is a 31.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got a 33.
Yeah.
So, those can be, I mean, I think that if I look back at all the games that I've played, and the game that I've laughed the hardest and longest was playing the mind.
Yeah. You know, and the game, like I said, it's a deck of cards, and you have a certain amount of lives. The game's $10. Yeah. At high end, it's $13. So when you get frustrated and throw it into your fireplace, the next day, full of regret, you can go buy another one. But it's just a deck of cards. It's the simplest thing, and it is so much fun. Out of all the games on the list, this one is criminally underrated. If you don't have it, you need to go pick it up now-ish.
Yeah, and if you don't like the mind, please tell us why you don't like the mind.
Exactly.
Because I can't think of any reason that someone would play it and be like, I'm going to rate this one a 5.
This one truly is, if you don't like this game, it's probably that you don't like the people you're playing with. And that's got nothing to do with the game.
Maybe,
because, you know, it's like, I'm going to give this a 1 because Bob is constantly blowing this up.
Or maybe it's just too simple. You know, maybe it's
simple.
You know, like we said before, it's a game that it's very light. There's not much to it, mechanic-wise and pieces-wise. But you're also not paying $140 for this game.
The game is a lot of fun. It's a blast. And it's one of those games that's probably in every Target in the United States.
Yeah.
You can go get it. It's right. It's between $10 and $13. And if you don't have it, you need to have it. You need to play this game. It's a blast.
Well, this is our list of what we consider to be very underrated games.
Underrated games that don't believe the scores. Try them out.
Right. If you have any thoughts on underrated games, please let us know in the comments. If you think that we kind of missed it, or if you think we're spot on, or let us know what your favorite underrated game is.
Don't put Monopoly on my list, please.
But while you're down there commenting, go ahead and like and subscribe. Helps us out a lot. We very much appreciate it. We'll see you next time.